This week, this very premises was the synonym of all eyes in the country, that's Parliament, because of the significant events that took place in the chamber of the House and the forecourt with regards to the inauguration of a new Parliament and a president. My name is Mensah Opoku. This is the chamber where we bring you all you need to know about what transpires in Parliament every week. We'll take a break here. When I come back, there is more on this program. You're welcome back from the break. Now, Parliament, the 7th Parliament dissolved to make way for the inauguration of the 8th Parliament this week. So this program spans the lives of 2 parliaments, the late life of the 7th Parliament and the early life of the 8th Parliament. There is more in the recap as we bring you the major issues that transpired on the floor of Parliament. The House reconvened after the December 7th polls on Monday. The members of the Minority Caucus appeared in the House clad in red and black. North Tongue MP Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa spoke to Citi News on the reason behind the action.
We are mourning the state of our democracy. There are dark clouds that have gathered over the lack of integrity, the discredited 2020 elections. You have an electoral commissioner who keeps changing the figures. And as we speak, we don't know which figure she's working with and what she's going to gazette and what we are supposed to be recognizing as a house. We are also gravely upset at the militarization of our elections, the use of brute force to overturn constituencies that we won. We insist that we have formed a majority for the 8th Parliament, and we will not accept anything short of a majority of the NDC side of the 8th Parliament. We insist that Techiman South belongs to us. It has been wrongly allocated to the MPP column by the Electoral Commission again.
But MP for Adentan Yabuabenga Samoa disagreed with the NDC.
The people of Ghana realized the value of what we had done in 2012 by going to the Supreme Court, and in 2016 they rewarded us. Now, what is stopping my colleagues from the other side from emulating our example if they have any doubts? We didn't just go, we had data. We had data, and we developed one of the most resilient parallel data systems in I dare say, elections worldwide. The MPP's parallel tabulation system is state of the art. We have the data and it's up to scratch. The NDC must produce data that demonstrate that they have won an election. You don't win an election with your mouth. You don't trample the institutions of state and expect those institutions to accept your authority. If they are damning every institution, the media, the Supreme Court, every institution, over whom are they going to rule? Over whom are they going to rule? What are the instruments they are going to rule with? What instruments are their parallel government going to rely on and stand on to achieve their ends? It is too naked. It is too naked. I think it's important that the NDC resort to the ultimate, which is the Supreme Court, if they have any doubt at all. And the Supreme Court acts on evidence. The name of the game is evidence.
Stalwarts who lost the election, such as Elizabeth Afolekwe, MP for Crowell, Titus Glover, outgoing MP for Tema East, Boniface Sadiq, ousted MP for Medina, Professor George Ambafo, former MP, outgoing MP for Wenchi, Adam Mutewakilu, outgoing MP for Damango, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, outgoing MP for Lejokuku, among others, surfaced in the House despite their fresh election defeat. Leader of the House, Oseche Mensah, indicated that the President will address the House final time before it's dissolved.
The President has to come to this House with the final message on the state of the nation. That may have to be taken after Christmas. So we may have to arrange another meeting between the 3rd and 5th of January for the conclusion of all businesses and indeed for the message on the state of the nation to be given by the President to conclude the his tenure for his first chapter of presidency.
Following the declaration of the results of the 2020 polls by the Electoral Commission, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, has rejected the outcome of the polls. They have demonstrated in parts of the country some have died as a result of election-related violence. Speaking to Citi News in Parliament, the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of the House, James Agalga, called for the immediate dismissal of the IGP for supervising what he says is the killing of innocent Ghanaians.
You see, the IGP appeared before Parliament and assured us that he was the chairman of the National Election Security Task Force. I recall vividly how the minority leader, the indefatigable Harun Idrisu, made it known to him that should anything go wrong, we are going to hold him responsible for any breaches. Now, 5 people have been killed. His men targeted at innocent citizens and armed civilians and fired at them. 5 lives have been lost. He's still at post. If I were in his shoes, I would have done the honorable thing by resigning. But if he wouldn't resign, he should immediately be dismissed. He appeared before us and gave us all the assurances. He's chairman of the Election Security Task Force.
But the Minister of Interior disagrees. He says all election-related violence are being investigated.
Where we are still looking at is the Techiman situation. But you would see the situation. What happened was that the EC official was grabbed, and the agencies, the operatives there, had to step in to free. They fired warning shots. Yes, if there are deaths now, our investigations will find out who really did it. As you would agree, some of these shootings are not from the security. But we keep the answer open that we are investigating. We will have to do ballistics to find out which bullets were found in, who could have been handling those guns. But you do know in the places like Sabugo and Ododidio and the rest of them, these were situations that were perpetrated by non-security agencies. So all the security agencies were trying to do, operators were trying to do, was to bring the situation under control. So yes, in the case of Techiman, we are waiting for a report to see to what extent those warning shots could have been this. But we also want to find out, was it within the standard operating procedures that warning shots be fired at that time, and how were they fired?
The Public Universities Bill 2020 attracted over 30 memoranda and petitions from the public before the bill was withdrawn and relayed in Parliament in November. The concerns ranged from stifling academic freedom to undue financial control and undermining the autonomy of public universities. During debate at the second reading stage on Tuesday, Chairman of the Education Committee, William Kwetu, indicated that the bill does not stifle academic freedom.
Academic freedom, very important, Mr. Speaker. The provision of academic freedom is very important for the effective and efficient functioning of the university. The committee noted that in order to uphold academic freedom, Clause 48 of the bill has conferred on the public university the right and responsibility to preserve and promote the conventional principles of academic freedom in the conduct of its internal and external affairs. The bill empowers the public university to regulate the affairs of the university pursuant to its independent ethos and traditions, and guided by principles related to the promotion and preservation of equality of opportunity, access, the effective application of resources, and the responsibility for ensuring public accountability.
Minority Leader Harun Idrisu said the caucus will only support the bill if groups that have raised fresh concerns are consulted.
Mr. Speaker, so stakeholder consultation is important to the work we do as Parliament. That is why Article 106 requires that we invite public memorandum. These are stakeholders who are affected by the bill, and therefore an assurance from the Minister for Education that they will be thoroughly engaged, and a report of the engagement submitted to Parliament. Other than that, we are unable to support this bill. We want the legitimate concerns of university lecturers, teachers, and students in the governance of public universities to be appropriately covered as we proceed further on this bill. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But the Minister for Education, Mensah Opoku, said the bill has significantly been reworked to reflect the concerns from stakeholders.
The universities were consulted, and it is their requests that the proposals that they brought in that led to the large number of amendments, which has been incorporated into the new bill that was relayed.
Which brings me to the question about how different this is from the one that was
withdrawn. Of course, when bills are brought, Parliament is not a rubber stamp. Parliament invites stakeholder memorandum, and there were 38 memoranda that were brought onto this bill. So Parliament will listen, and if there are amendments, that is the work of Parliament. Executive brings its proposals, Parliament invites memoranda from stakeholders, and the bill is fashioned.
Well, the ranking member on the Education Committee, Peter Nochukoto, said the minority will withdraw its support for the bill if their concerns, which have largely been incorporated into the bill, are ignored.
So this one has more freedom to be given to the university, but still, as I said, there's still the need to critically look at certain portions, which I think members, when we come to the consideration, must look at critically. We have made our recommendations, and I hope that the recommendations will be taken through at the consideration stage to make it a better bill.
Following concerns raised by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, and other stakeholders, Parliament has suspended the bill to allow for further stakeholder consultations.
What UTAG and other stakeholders of academia want to do or are seeking to know is what is in the new one. And that is what we have made available now. And so this morning, we met them, UTAG and other stakeholders, we met them and we gave copies of the new bill to them. In other words, the relayed one to them. They have to study it and bring their comments for consideration. And when we receive their comments, of course, during our second consideration of the committee, all the comments that, of course, be acceptable to all of us will be incorporated in the bill. So, doing a second reading does not mean that we have passed the bill. And we have all agreed to certain conditions that have to be fulfilled before the bill, the public university bill, is passed. They have agreed to what we want to do. To be precise, UTAG, National UTAG, and the various universities, and maybe Convocation and other key players of academia were present at a meeting this morning, and they have all received copies of the new bill.
Interesting reports curated from the week with regards to the major issues in Parliament, as well as with a spot of education as what the processes throughout the transition period, what they really mean. That's what we brought to you during the recap segment. But we'll take a break here. When I come back, we'll take you to the From the Floor segment, where we'll go in depth into the issues. Speak on the From the Floor segment, we bring you the speech, the closing remarks of the Speaker of the 7th Parliament, Professor Mike Okwe, Right Honourable, before he dissolved the 7th Parliament on the 6th of January. And then we'll bring you the actions, the acts, the issues that characterized the election of a new speaker. We'll bring you a report, a comprehensive report on what happened on the night in Parliament, the snatching of ballot papers, the booting down of ballot boxes and voting booths, as well as the invasion of the Chamber of Parliament by men clad in military uniform, amongst others. We have all of that in a comprehensive report that culminated in the election of the Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, who is the Speaker of the 8th Parliament. And then we'll bring you his acceptance speech, the acceptance speech of the man who will be leading the charge in the 8th Parliament as Speaker. From the floor, right about now.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, discharged the statutory function required of him by Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution to present to this Honourable House his message on the state of the nation prior to the resolution of this House. We thank the President for his commendation to this Parliament, and I quote, "This 7th Parliament has been the busiest ever and arguably the most productive in the history of our country." Honorable members, you deserve to be proud of this description. Pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution, this House stands dissolved by midnight of Wednesday, 6th January 2021. 4 years ago, honorable members of this House reposed trust in me and elected me to the high office as Speaker of the House. With humility, I accepted the stewardship, which I deemed a homecoming after a 2-term stint as Member of Parliament and Second Deputy Speaker. I have since lived the expectation of trailing the path pursued by another Osuhum boy and legal luminary, Right Honorable Sir Charles Emmanuel Quist, of blessed memory, a trail that was followed thereafter by another compatriot, Honorable Justice Griffith Randolph. I thank the Almighty God whose favor and mercies have brought me this far. The good Lord has endowed us with the needed strength, fortitude, and guidance to serve this House to the best of our various abilities. Honorable members, my stewardship for the past years, I hope, has met the expectation of being fair and firm in the application of the rules and procedures of this honorable House. To all, I have had the privilege to preside over a House which has generally been very supportive. Consultations and consensus have been resolved too in times of apparent tension. I have been spared the ordeal of overseeing a rancorous House, and I would like to render my sincerest appreciation to the leadership of the House and indeed the backbench for managing to build bridges in times of need. Together, we banned catcalls, placards, and allied activities which constituted an embarrassment to the House, especially during presidential addresses. This will remain a prestigious legacy in this honorable House. I can only hope this cordiality and conviviality will be maintained in advancing the course of deepening our parliamentary democracy. Honorable members, our ability to deepen the democratic practice is to forge ahead as a united people with common destiny. History teaches us that conflicts on the political turf neither inure to the benefit of the vocal complainants nor the silent onlooking segment of the population. We owe it a duty to the present generation and generations yet unborn to ensure that as a people we eschew unguarded utterances, bare-faced insults, individual unguarded utterances, etc., etc. Today we seek the blessings of the Lord in the resolution of problems plaguing our country. We also need to adhere to democratic tenets, principles of good governance, including accountability and the rule of law, in spite of how difficult the choice will sometimes cost us. Since 7 January 2017, we have collectively made it our duty to see to it that Parliament effectively performs its cardinal functions of representation, oversight of the executive arm of government, and law-making. Honorable members, major achievements in the 7th Parliament include the following, which have been captured and I will only summarize. The standing orders completed, private members' bills were completed, and one adopted, one bill passed in actual fact. And I trust that the next Parliament will be able to build upon this and pass a number of laws which will make our people see that Parliament is working. In the process, We thank all those who helped us. Honorable Dami, Deputy Attorney General, Honorable SKB Asante, Dr. SKB Asante, former Deputy Director of the Drafting Division, Mrs. Ufori Boating, Director of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Professor Kwesi Prempeh. In fact, we called a number of conferences in order to sharpen our skills and get it right from the beginning. Business of the House, wonderful achievement by way of the number of bills we passed, total in 125 bills passed into law, which is totally unprecedented. Institutional reforms to Parliament. Institutional reforms included Parliamentary Reform Office, so that we shall continually be reviewing our ways of doing things. Clinical Psychology Unit is of great help to us as the human being is not only physical, but also psychological. Legal Services Department. We never had a legal department in this Parliament, which was most unfortunate. We have now established it. Budget and Fiscal Analysis Office. Medical equipment were brought, and the clinic expanded, including a number of equipment that were purchased. They have been listed here to show how far we have come. We trust that someday we shall go beyond a clinic to a Parliament hospital. Gymnasium was built. A number of welfare measures were taken, including getting 50 houses through the Rehoboth housing scheme for honorable for workers at various categories. We are looking at a scheme for members of Parliament, even as they come the next time round, with the Rehoboth helping, and then the houses that you occupy in the interim, they will be offered to you to buy, so that members will have permanent homes in Accra at very little cost. End of service benefits for workers have also been implemented. Introduction of special transportation allowance given to workers. First ever institution pension scheme have been implemented, and an award scheme for journalists of the Parliamentary Service Corps also implemented. Fiscal infrastructure enhancement projects continued, and every member should now have an office as against the previous situation that we faced. There have been a number of publications from the Speaker's office and the research unit. The office of the Speaker has compiled the following books as part of the effort to make the institution of Parliament a knowledge hub. These include rulings of the Speaker, statements on the floor in 4 volumes, private members' bill in Ghana, a guide, addresses by the Speaker and leaders of the House. Honorable members, these books are here. These are copies of the relevant books, hitherto not published like this before. And these volumes include all the statements that honorable members have made in this House during this period, put into various thematic categories, so that if you want to capture something on agriculture, you can have easy reference. Copies will be made available to all outgoing MPs, incoming MPs, and those who are staying on for reference and for the future. It will help us to sharpen our tools and argue more in terms of principle and issue as we develop our institution. Honorable members, in coming to an end of this speech, I would like to register my unqualified gratitude to the members of the Parliamentary Service Board, comprising Honorable Hakma Osu Agima, Honorable Osei Che Mensah Opoku, the indefatigable Majority Leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, our ever-working Minority Leader, Honorable Abena Osei Asare, Mr. Cyril Sia, and the 2 co-opted members of the board, Honorable Osei Owusu and Honorable Abangbabi for their wise counsel and contribution to the success of the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. With an increase in budgetary allocation of 56.5% to the 7th Parliament, I would like to use this opportunity to express my profound appreciation to the President for his consistent support to Parliament, especially on the issue of assisting the House to earmark the parliamentary enclave. I'm equally grateful to the entire executive, the judiciary and other constitutional bodies for their support to the 7th Parliament anytime the need arose. I also thank the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Cyril Isian, and the deputies, senior management and staff of the Parliamentary Service Corps for their remarkable services rendered to the House. To our friends from the media and the Parliamentary Press Corps, we appreciate your hard work and professionalism. Honorable members, it is my utmost pleasure and privilege to have served you as Speaker of the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic. God bless the Parliament of Ghana and make our nation great and strong. God bless us all. This Parliament will stand dissolved at 12 midnight.
It was cast in stone that the election of the new Speaker of Parliament will witness some level of drama. The events after the December 7 election did give a clue, as the two major parties with equal number of seats claimed to have attained majority. But the activities from midnight of January 7, which dragged an election between two candidates for more than 8 hours, shocked many Ghanaians. Even before the first meeting of the House could begin, words were out there that the two parties had calmed their members in order to whip them in line to vote for their preferred candidates. This was somehow confirmed when members of the two parties began arriving in hired buses. The NDC MPs arrived in a unified manner and quickly took their seats to the right side of the Speaker's position to convince themselves and Ghanaians that they won majority of seats in Parliament. This was the beginning of the unending drama that was witnessed throughout the process of electing the Speaker.
The members of the NDC caucus are actually seated at the right-hand side of the Speaker and indicating that they have formed the majority in the House. If you look clearly also near the dais, near the box of the House, which usually houses and keeps the mace of Parliament, you can see that the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who is the leader of the NDC caucus in the House, is caught up in a conversation with other senior members of the MPP caucus. I can see
the NPP members after this started arriving, but unlike their counterparts, they did not come in their full numbers at the same time. Outnumbered, the first batch did not argue with the NDC MPs, but silently took their seats on the left side meant for the minority. The entry of K.T. Hammond, NPP MP for Asokwa, however, changed the atmosphere as he shouted at the NDC MPs to vacate from the seats.
The K.T. Hammond, who was rumored to be out of the jurisdiction, has come in and is actually, shouting out instructions to the minority to move. He's a known rabble-rouser in the House.
Is he the senior most MP in the Parliament now?
Very, very, very interesting. Telling them that they should move. They should move.
K.T. Hammond is taking on the NDC side and asking them.
That's Kwabena Donko, his very good friend.
Kwabena Donko, his best friend.
From primary school, yes, his best friend.
MP
from primary school.
MP for Swami and Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Opoku and other NPP MPs attempted talking to the NDC MPs to vacate their seats, but all these proved futile.
Maybe someone.
Is it a fight?
Yeah, that's right. They are dragging someone, pushing someone.
Wow.
A lady is being. Yeah.
What's going on?
Kasua.
Hawa Kumsin?
Yeah, that's right. Hawa Kumsin is.
So, viewers, these are live pictures from the floor. It looks like a loud argument. We haven't seen any blows yet. So, thankfully, I mean, we've seen in other countries people throwing shoes and things.
Eventually, the NPP MPs compromised and maintained the seats usually meant for the minority. Shortly after that, the clerk to Parliament, who acted as chairman, walked in and officially opened the first meeting of the 8th Parliament. As expected, he opened nominations for the speakership position.
Honourable members-elect, Clause 1 of Article 95 of the 1992 Constitution requires that a Speaker of Parliament be elected by members of Parliament from among persons who are members of Parliament or qualified to be elected as members of Parliament. May I also refer you to Standing Order 8.4.
MP for Tamale South, Haruna Drusu, nominated Alban Bagwin. But before the nomination could be seconded, Ifutu MP Alexander Apenyo-Marken raised preliminary objection. The resultant effect of this was a stalling of the process for more than 2 hours. The frustrations could be seen on the face of the clerk, who simply wanted to carry out his duties. The clerk later confirmed that an injunction notice had been served on him in respect to the Asen North MP-elect. Order was restored and proceedings continued. In the end, the two sides nominated Professor Maikwe and Alban Bagwin. The stage was set for voting through secret balloting. Shortly after voting began, the process was disrupted again, as some NDC MPs accused the NPP of breaching the secrecy of ballot rule, a situation that resulted in the destruction of election materials.
The MP wanted to show the vote to the MPP whip, and so Muntaka had to go in to prevent him from doing so. So that's what I just saw.
There's a real fight. There's a real fight. This is unsightly. MPs, fully grown members of Parliament, kicking ballot boxes, pushing down voting booths because they insist this is hooliganism on display.
Some soldiers were later seen storming the plenary in an attempt to maintain law and order. That intrusion by the military has since been condemned by a number of Ghanaians.
The clerk has been escorted out by policemen, and the NDC minority, the NDC caucus are trying as much as possible to get the military men out.
There they are chanting the words of the national anthem. Oh, this is so poor. This is not what we expected coming here today. And they appear resolute. None of them is sitting. They are all standing, pushing what they believe is right, whilst the members of the MPP side are comfortably seated and observing proceedings. This really is so poor.
Following from this, the voting process was restarted. All MP-elects took turns to cast their ballots. Even the Asen North MP-elect voted despite the injunction slapped on him. Sooner than later, the election was over and counting began. The ballot box to be counted first was that of Professor Maikwe, followed by that of Alban Bagwin. In the process, the MP for Tema West snatched some ballot papers, which also stalled the process.
Someone has taken the ballot papers. Someone has taken the uncounted ballot papers. Is that Carlos Ahinkra? That's Carlos Ahinkra, isn't it, of Tema West? And he's been attacked.
Leadership of the House was then forced to go into a meeting to address the situation. They returned with a resolution, and the clerk declared Alban Bagwin as the new Speaker of the 8th Parliament.
An unfortunate incident happened in the process leading to the declaration of the results of the election of the Speaker. out of which leadership held some consultations. Accordingly, I have the honor to declare Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin as Speaker-elect.
His swearing-in took place, and he in turn swore in the NP's-elect.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana,
as
by law established,
that
I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of Ghana, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So help me God.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana, as by law established. That I will uphold.
Joseph Osei-Wusu of the NPP and Andrew Amakwesiama, independent MP for Fomena, were later appointed as first and second deputy speakers respectively.
I now declare the honorable member for Bekwai constituency duly elected as the first deputy speaker of this house. I will now want to read my acceptance speech. Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, honorable members of Parliament elect, Your Excellencies, our revered traditional leaders, representatives of political parties, our hard-working members of the press corps, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I humbly accept the high and privileged office of the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. In accepting such an honor, I want to first thank the Almighty God for His abundant grace and blessings on me and my family. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for bestowing this honor and great responsibility on me. Let me not forget Ghanaians, the Electoral Commission, all political parties, civil society organizations, the media, and more importantly, my party, the great National Democratic Congress, for proposing me to be elected to be the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Members-elect, I must say I'm so happy and grateful to all of you. And when I mean all of you, I include those who even voted against me, except only those who tried conjuring what is not food. I will submit myself to the will of this House and pledge to serve my dear country, to serve you, and to serve all Ghanaians faithfully to the best of my ability. I will also conscientiously discharge my duties as a Speaker of this Parliament. I want to promise wholeheartedly to put at the disposal of Parliament and the country the store of knowledge, immense experience, and the huge data bank I have accumulated and accommodated over the 28 years that I have been a member of this House. As the standing orders of Parliament directs, after you have performed this duty of electing me as the Speaker of Parliament, I will have the singular honor and duty to also proceed to perform the other duties imposed by the standing orders of the House.
Hello and welcome back from the break. This is Duke's View, and this week a couple of issues I want to address. First has got to do with the Professor Yan Tiamwa Bedu Presidential Committee on Emolument report that was placed before the 7th Parliament. Yes, I'm talking about a report that made recommendations on the gratuities, popularly known as the ex gratia, that must be paid members of Parliament. In 2 separate meetings in camera, it was approved for members. We don't know how much they approved. We don't know what they said in that meeting. Of course, when it comes to issues of welfare and issues relating to the payment for members of Parliament, they always do it behind closed doors. They don't want us to know what goes on with regards to it. But that's okay. I'm just saying that the committee report is a public document. It's a public document. So I call on the leadership of Parliament and indeed the entire Republic and the state to release that report, make that report public for everybody, for every Ghanaian to have access to it. Why? Because it is our taxpayers' money that is going to be used to pay those monies. It's our taxes, the tax of the entire citizenry that is going to be used to pay these officers of state, not only members of Parliament, but members of the executive as well. Because the Constitution states that it's the executive that determines what the legislator will take, or the legislature will take, and the legislature then determines what the executive will take. Some kind of convenient symbiotic relationship. We've heard all sort of figures, from 400,000 to 600,000 to 12% increment to 11.5% increment in salaries and allowances and gratuities for members of Parliament of the 7th Parliament. We are not asking for much on this platform. All we want is for that report to be made public in the interest of accountability, in the public interest. Again, let's look at the events when the whole nation was looking at Parliament at the dawn of 7th January. The actions that I'm really finding, I'm trying hard to find palatable words to express, but I can't find any. It was just crass. It was unfortunate. The things that happened on the floor of Parliament, the unparliamentary conduct, the insults, the near fisticuffs, the sheer breakdown of law and order and discipline, to the point that an assault on our democracy had to be committed by bringing in men from the military, which also turned into something else. The snatching of ballot papers, the booting of ballot boxes and voting booths. All of these things desecrate. They bring into disrepute the very essence of our democracy and Parliament. And I'm sure we've all seen the kind of reportage that the members of parliament worked so hard to give Ghana our image in the international media this week, from the BBC to Al Jazeera to African News to CNN. I'm sure we've all seen, fostering an indelible dent on the hard-won reputation and image of this country. The incidents of the dawn of 7th January. It should never happen again in the annals of the country's history. But I think we need to point out, for what it's worth, there must be a full-scale parliamentary probe into the incidents that morning, so that whoever has to be suspended must be suspended. We've even seen footage of officers of parliament doing something that can never be said to be right. But we all saw that there should be a full-scale inquiry, a probe instituted into the things that happened. And that's your first task, Speaker Bagbin. That's your first litmus test. That's your first test. The incidents that occurred the dawn of 7th January. There should be a full-scale parliamentary probe into it. Those who are supposed to be suspended should be suspended. Those who must be punished, because such unparliamentary conduct must not go unpunished. And that's how we end Duke's View. That's how we wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber right here on Citi TV. Next week, we'll bring you a playback of this, because throughout next week, Parliament will not be sitting. They will sit only on Friday. But we're still here to serve you the very best in the 8th Parliament, which promises to be nothing but intriguing and interesting. Stay with Citi TV.